I'm joined today by a gentleman who I've actively been trying to get onto Print Island since really we've discovered the island nearly 18 months ago, floating somewhere in the sea, wherever it may be. And today is that day. Nessan Cleary, welcome to Print Island.
Hello, hi, happy to be here.
Well, likewise, and we've just established before we started recording that in the real world where we all live, we actually live just up the road from each other.
Yes, small world.
Yes, as is always the case, and it's the one thing, Nessa, I love about the whole industry actually, is that small world is either geographical or metaphorical or emotional or familial or something, but it's just to say it's such a huge global industry, it always feels like quite a small world, doesn't it?
Yeah, I always think of myself as writing for a global audience. I never think of it in terms of regions or countries. Everyone's got the same issues all over the world, so it makes no real difference.
Very true, very true. Well, on that note, then let's have the 30-second flyby of who you are, what you do, and why you do it.
Oh gosh, okay. Well, I'm a journalist. That's it. Pretty simply, I just happen to write about print. I believe in journalism and giving people real good information that they can trust and use to make decisions in their own lives.
And what got you into that? I've got a daughter just about to go to university this year to study media and journalism, and I asked her the same question: what got you into it? And her answer was, "I just like words." Is that the same for you? How did you get into journalism originally?
Oh well, I've on an unusual route. I first love was cinema, and I first started studying film, and there was a unit within that on documentary film. And I found that I really liked that. And then from there I went into television. I worked briefly as an assistant cameraman, and then I retrained as a journalist. I like getting to the truth of things. I like stripping away all of the extraneous rubbish and the marketing and everything, and just getting down to what really matters.
And that's the perfect reason why we want you on Print Island, because that's our goal too. And I think in many ways, all industries, not just print, can be obfuscated a little by the marketing guff that precedes the truth. So this is one of the reasons, as I say, that we wanted to get you on, because I think that the quest for that, the reality, is much more valuable to the industry than the guff ever was, because most printers, most print businesses around the world, as you've just said, they all have the same problems, different languages and different weather, but largely the same problems. Understanding the truth is a huge valuable asset, isn't it?
Yes, and there is no one real truth. All you can do is give people as much information as possible and let them figure out for themselves what works for them.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. And I guess good journalism in that regard is to bring forward, let's call them the truths of the situation, and I guess business people the world over will always interpret what they hear and what they read to their own ends to a certain extent. But I think it's fascinating to start with a plain spoken, well written explanation of something rather than the marketing fluff.
Yeah, well, that's been my point of view. People can work out for themselves what works for them.
So tell me a little bit. You say you ended up writing about print. How? What got you into that world?
I got a job on a magazine. Actually, ironically, not about print. It was a magazine that, this is in the late 90s. It focused on digital photography and what was then called pre-press, because there was no digital printing. And there wasn't really any digital photography. It was far too early for that. And two worlds just sort of morphed together gradually. More printing came about, pre-press became much more developed. And out of that, everything grew from there.
And I have this conversation a lot, and I always ask this question: if you could choose a digital world or a non-digital world, which would you prefer to be in?
Oh, definitely digital.
Digital, yeah.
You always have to look forward. You can never look back.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's the right answer. And I guess, like me, you've seen the advances really and I say this a lot, Nessan, that I think the print industry is actually the tech industry. It just doesn't know it. And the rate of development and innovation and the collaboration that comes from that, I think, is quite unique in the world of print.
Yeah, I mean, I think the most interesting part of printing now is industrial print. And most people, when they say print, they really mean graphics printing. But industrial printing is much more interesting. And in that context, printing is expanding massively from pure graphics into other forms of manufacturing.
And with that, so just for anybody watching this and doesn't understand the distinction, tell me a little bit about, or give me the flyby, if you like, of industrial print.
Well, there's quite a range of things you can count as industrial. I mean, people used to think of packaging as an industrial. We used to think of textiles as industrial. But you can look at other things. You can look at furniture, which is all often now printed digitally. There's lots of printing involved in automotive. Lots of printing involved in all sorts of different industries, mainly applying coatings and functional layers and things. A good example would be something like a car windscreen, where you have a black line around every windscreen, which is inkjet printed in order to protect the binding on the windscreen.
And do you think, and it's an interesting point, because the ubiquity of print has been in all of our worlds from the day we drew our first breath, and therefore we don't notice it because it's so normal to us to see printed items. We don't notice print, which, when you hear the wonderful annual Christmas debate of is print dead, is absolute nonsense, because it can't be, because of that very ubiquity. Do you think that's the issue, that people see print and they pigeonhole it as a newspaper or a magazine? They don't understand the sheer breadth of where print is.
Oh yes, it surprised me. Even colleagues in other branches of journalism aren't quite sure what printing is. And you think, hang on, we're working for newspapers. Of course we know what printing is. But also you can look around. You can say there's print on menus, on posters, on furniture, on all sorts of things. So it's everywhere.
And I saw some pictures that had been mocked up by an agency that showed what would happen if you removed print, and it was a supermarket aisle, which was basically just beige, and everything was the same. There was nothing on it, and people at that stage go, oh yeah, I hadn't thought of it that way. Do you think, from a generational perspective, it's important, and especially in this digital age that we both prefer, that the next generation grow up understanding the value of print?
I think that they do already. I think there's a lot said about the upcoming generation. They don't fully understand things properly, but I think they're just the same as all the generations that went before them. They're perfectly capable of seeing the world around them and seeing where there was printing used. And if you look at where their tastes lie, they're also looking back at other things. There's more use of vinyl records, for example, amongst the young. Our generation embraced digital and online books, whereas younger people are now buying books. So
it's very true.
Quite encouraged by that.
Yeah, no, it's very true. And in fact, my daughter yesterday, as I mentioned, who's going to university, would like to take a record player with her to her room, which I think is brilliant. But it's that classic 30-year cycle, isn't it, where everything comes back round again?
Yeah.
It's fun, and it's fun to watch and really to sort of understand. I guess you have to live a long life, Nessan, in order to be able to see these cycles come around again and know you were right in the first place.
Well, let's hope so.
Yeah, exactly. So tell me, now that I've managed to get you out here to Print Island, and as you can see, we have a lovely view of the industry from here. We're on top of the Lighthouse today, the highest point on the island. What do you see? What are you seeing in the industry at the moment? The trends, the pitfalls, the problems, the positives. What's your view?
The biggest single problem is the economic situation. You can't expect people to invest millions in new equipment if no one's quite sure where the economy is going. And that's a persistent problem now for the last couple of years. And I think that's going to be the main issue for the next couple of years.
And do you think that next couple of years is tied directly to the current occupant of 1664 Pennsylvania Avenue?
It's definitely not helping. But it goes beyond that. I mean, really, you can say that the current situation started back in about 2007, where there was a massive economic crash. And we'd never really recovered from that. If you look at the financial results of all the main printing companies, you can see gradually they've restructured and they have kind of picked up for that. But the rest of the industry is still falling behind that.
And do you think yeah, absolutely. Do you think there's a case then with everything that you just said that the major manufacturers, the OEMs, need to review the almost the development rate of newer, bigger, faster, more expensive machines that people are not investing in at the moment for the reasons that you just said. Do you think that the industry needs to get a bit smaller, in its approach to because the consumer, as we've just said, uses print every single second of every single day. So there is always a need, but the rate of development and the cost of development is becoming prohibitive.
You have to match R&D to what's available in the economy. People can't buy what you're developing. There's no point to do that. But I would assume that most of the established companies are able to measure that themselves.
But do you think they take notice of those measurements?
To some extent. Occasionally you see people run into difficulty, they didn't. I don't have much faith in the current trend towards automation or the need for it. I see a lot of people saying that we have to automate more because Gen Z don't like to work in print or whatever. That's rubbish. They're the same as all the other generations, but they need jobs and they need to pay their mortgages and so on. If it's a good job in printing, then there's no reason why they wouldn't take it.
And I guess automation also comes with that lovely cover story of what you've just said, but actually is a way of driving costs out of the business. That's not the same as improving the product, improving the price. There's two ways to do that, isn't there?
Oh yeah, you can certainly use automation to make an industry or any business more efficient. But there is more to it. An economy needs more than just very efficient manufacturing. You need to have also people earning enough money to buy the things you're manufacturing.
Yeah, no, that's very true, and we do feel stuck, shall we say, between two what's the word I can use? I was going to say stools, but that sounds rude. Although that's probably right, actually, in this case.
Yeah, it sometimes feels like a sort of game of musical chairs. There's less chairs all the time.
Indeed, yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. So let's take that viewpoint then and look positively towards the future and as you say, your love of digital. What would you like to see coming down the line? Not just what is coming down the line. What if you could predict what the next 10, 15, 20 years that you'd like to see, what would it be?
I'd like to see more synergy between 3D printing and graphics printing.
Okay.
You take something simple like everyone's suddenly starting to make little direct-to-shape printers for printing onto glasses. But why manufacture a glass and then print onto it? You could actually 3D print the glass with the graphics on it.
Well, there is that. I mean, I suppose that rules out the personalized side of the world and the customized side of the world to a certain extent, which is a world I come from, as you know. And I guess
you can 3D print a personalized glass just as easy as you can print a graphic onto a glass.
Well, there is that, yeah, the 3D side of things, certainly. And then the difficulty is always the conversation is how you scale that up, I suppose, more than anything else. But and do you think 3D has still got a way to go before people can really see the benefits of it?
I think it's advancing quite rapidly, but not as fast as I had expected. And I don't think people always see where it's being used. But there's a lot of 3D printing being used already.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think, and that's the problem in many ways. That I'm back to my point about people not seeing, what things are done, and then the opportunity isn't maximised as a result. And I guess you've got boardrooms full of directors of businesses looking at the bottom line, thinking, okay, that's not working, let's stop doing it. But they've never really understood how it could work for them.
It needs a bit more creative thinking, but realistically, if your business is, let's say, decorating T-shirts. There's not a lot of future there. You're basically taking a product that's been manufactured very cheaply in somewhere like China and just adding a small amount of decoration to it. It's not the same as actually manufacturing a product.
Very true. Yeah, no, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah, no, it's interesting, and this is one of the reasons that I wanted to get you on to Print Island, because I think there is an underlying reality to most stories, and you as a very talented writer and journalist will know that when you're constructing a piece to get people's interest and attention, there's degrees and levels of that you need to. There's a gateway, isn't there, an entry point, and then get them to the actual the nub of the story. Is that something that you still enjoy as a writer?
Oh yes, I always think, who's going to be reading this, and sometimes it's fun to write kind of very high level pieces about like the state of the economy and how that affects printing. But it's equally interesting to drill right down into individual applications and individual companies and how they approach things.
And if you had the classic 3 minutes to live, take away the glass of whatever it was and take away the plate of whatever it was as your final, what would you write?
Well, who would read it? That would be the main thing. I mean, realistically, I'm a working journalist. You always have to ask, why are we doing this? If there's not anyone left to read it, there's no point. Just enjoy the sunshine.
See, and that's what I love about you, is that you go straight for the literal truth, which is why your writing is so good, and why I enjoy reading it. And hopefully, if you did write something that I would have the time left to read it, that would be a great thing for me. So, Nessan, listen, thank you for taking the time to come on Print Island today. I know you're busy, and although it's taken us a while to get you here, I think it was well worth it, and I'm sure everybody will agree. Nessan Cleary, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.